Hello everyone, I welcome you all to today's session. So today's topic of discussion is Unit 13, that is responsibility of a paying bank. So we are going to discuss this complete chapter in this video. What is the responsibility of the complete or paying bank? Okay, so let's start discussing the very first and the basic introduction. First of all, you all know that the drawee of the check must have a sufficient balance of the drawer in his hand properly available to the payment of such check, must pay the check when duly required to do so, and in default of such payment must compensate the drawer for any loss. It means what? It means that whenever anyone is making or drawing the check or writing the check, that is the drawer. So first of all, the drawee means who is actually directed to pay the check. The drawee must have a sufficient balance of the drawer in his hand, which is properly available. It means that it is actually in cash or in that state through which the payment can be done. And the check is need to be paid by the drawee on the behalf of the drawer when duly required to do so, means when there is demand for that. And if necessarily without any valid reason, if the drawee has rejected or dishonored the check, even when they have the sufficient balance of the drawer in their hand to make the payment of the check, and if the drawee has rejected or dishonored the check, then the drawee is responsible for compensating the loss that can happen to the drawer in this case. Okay, first of all, the important thing is must have the sufficient balance, means drawee must have the sufficient balance of drawer in properly available manner. It means that this can be made for the payment when duly required to do so, means when the check is properly drawn and signed by the drawer. Okay, now in this case, if wrongfully the check has been dishonored by the drawee, then he or she then the bank is responsible for compensating the loss of drawer. Now in the case bank refused the payment wrongfully, he is liable not only to the drawer and not to any endorsee. So he is only responsible. Now if the bank has wrongfully dishonored the check, now the bank is responsible. The liability of the bank lies towards the drawer, not the endorsee of the check. Now, except when there are such situations in which the bank is directly liable to the endorsee. Okay, now in normal circumstances, if the check is dishonored wrongfully, then the drawee is responsible or is liable to the drawer. But in some cases, the drawee is directly liable to the endorsee. Now, what are the situation? First of all, the bank is wound up. When the bank is wound up, and when in which case the holder, it becomes actually the creditor, and he or she is entitled to claim the money from the bank. Now if the check is paid disregarding the crossing, and the true owner can hold the bank liable. Now if the bank pay the check disregarding of the crossing, if there is a crossing, it means it is an account pay check, and the bank pays this check to anyone. Now in this case, the original holder of the check can demand the payment from the bank directly. Okay, now if we talk about the next important thing, the liability of the bank when the customer's signature on the check is forged. Now what is the liability of the bank when the signature in the check is actually forged? Okay, duplicate or fraud, then what is the responsibility or what is the liability of the paying bank? So let us discuss an example. When the signature of a customer is forged, there is no mandate to the bank to pay. In this case, if the bank is paying the amount, or as such a banker is not entitled to the customer account on such forged check. So a bank has the responsibility, paying bank has the responsibility to verify the signature of the customer. If it is not verified and bank wrongfully debited or give the amount in the forged signature case, then the bank is held liable for any type of compensation. Okay, now let us discuss the example. So there was an example in which So a company had a current account balance which has been operated by the company's managing director. So a company has a current account balance which has been operated by the company's managing director. Now the company's accountant who had the custody of the checkbook over a time period forged the signature of their managing director in approximately 42 checks, and this leads to the fraud of approximately 3,26,000 rupees. The company, on immediately detecting the fraud, demanded the amount from the bank. The bank refused payment and the company filed the suit against the bank. Now, in this case, bank has lost the suit and appealed to the Supreme Court, which was against dismissed. Why? Because it is the responsibility of the paying bank to check the signature and to verify the signature very closely. Now, in this case, the company's accountant has been forging the signature of the managing director, and he is actually done the fraud of rupees 3 lakh approximately. Now, on finding that demand, the company just what just filed the case against the bank and demanded the money from the bank, which the bank refused. Now the company filed the suit against that bank, and the court has given the favor or given the decision in favor of the company. Means the bank has to return that money to the company. Why? Because the signature is fraud and the signature has been forged, and this is the responsibility of the paying bank to cross check and verify the signature in every case. Now the bank has to return the money to the company. Now, this appeal has given to the Supreme Court. Now, the bank has gone to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court rejected the appeal. Means in any condition, the paying bank is held liable when the paying bank actually credit the amount in case of a forged signature. In a joint account, if one of the signature is forged, then also the bank should not be crediting the money to the account. Clear? Next, payment in due course from the bank to seek protection. Now, what is the case? So, this was the case of Bihar, Bank of Bihar versus Mahabir Lal, okay, where payment has been made to the holder, his servant or agent. That is the payment in due course, because the payment in due course means payment which is made to that person directly or to the servant or their agent. The person who has associated with that corporation, if the payment is made to any one of these, the payment is said to be made in due course. Now, in this case, bank is not liable for any type of compensation in case of fraud. Let us discuss the case. The bank has agreed to grant a firm a cash credit facility against the pledge of the cloth paid. Okay, now for the money purchasing the cloth would be paid by the bank to the supplier, and the cloth bill would be kept by the bank as the pledge for the loan. So first of all, the bank has agreed that okay, I will be giving you a credit facility against that cloth bill, and there is a condition. Bank says that the money for purchasing the cloth would be paid by the bank directly to the supplier, and cloth bill is kept in a bank by the bank as a pledge for the loan. The firm was required to draw a check on itself and was handed over to bank. Now the firm agreed. Now firm has to make the payment, and the firm draws a check on itself and submitted it to the bank. Now the bank entrusted the cash with one of the company's employee, which whose name was Poddar, who accompanied partner to the wholesaler. Now the company has given the cash, the bank has given the cash to the representative of the company, which was known as, yeah, whose name was Poddar. Now the bank has given the money to Poddar, and Poddar, to which the company has given the responsibility to submit the cash to the wholesaler. Now, before the money could be paid to the wholesaler, Poddar made fraud and he ran away with the money. Now what? The bank sought repayment of that money. The bank want the repayment of that money, which was refused by the firm. Now bank sued the firm that you have to pay this money, because bank has made this money in due course, because Poddar is the representative of the company, and the company has given responsibility to Poddar that please have the check, have the cash from the bank and submit it to the wholesaler. Now it is not the responsibility of the bank here, because the bank has given the payment in due course or in the full confidence to put that he will goes to the wholesaler and submit that, because he or she is the representative of the company. Now the bank sued the firm for the money relying on Section 85 and 188. Supreme Court held that before the provision of Section 85 can assist bank if had to be established that the payment has made to the firm or to the person of the firm on the behalf of the firm. The payment to a person who had nothing to do with the payment or to an agent or the bank would not be the payment to the firm. Now, in this case, who is responsible and who is not responsible? So, bank has made payment to Podar, who is the representative of a company, and it is a legal thing. A paying bank is protected against any type of liability arises from a fraud in this case. Why? Because bank has made the payment in due course to the representative of the company, which is also termed as payment to the company. Now, if the bank has given payment to any other person who has no association with the company, who is not the employee of the company, then the bank will be responsible for all the loss. But in this case, the firm is responsible on the loss. The firm has to return the money to the bank. Why? Because Podar was the employee of the firm. Now the firm has the responsibility, full credit of the Podar. Now Podar become fraud and ran away with the money. It means that the bank has no liability here and the firm has to return the money to back. Clear? So always remember, payment in due course means payment can be made to that firm directly, even if the payment is made by the bank to one of the employee of the company, is also termed as the payment of the firm. Okay, and in this case, if that employee becomes fraud, the firm is liable for all type of loss and has to return the money and has to repay the amount to the bank. Clear? Okay. Now, next, if we talk about payment in good faith without any negligence of an instrument on which the alteration is not apparent. Now, Section 89 give protection to the paying bank of a check which has been made materially altered but not disappear, does not appear to be have been altered. Section 89 protect a paying bank for any type of alteration in the check which doesn't appears to be altered. For example, there is a check which is made of rupees $500. Now, 1 zero is added in such a way in this check that the alteration is not detectable. There is no cut, there is no enhancement. 500 is made 5,000. Now, in this case, because whatever has been altered does not appear to be altered, and in this case, if the paying bank has given and has paid $5,000, in this case, the paying bank is not responsible for any type of loss or fraud. The firm cannot claim that I have drawn a check of 500, why you have dispersed $5,000, because the bank can say that the alteration is done in such a way that it doesn't appear to be altered, and that's why I have paid this amount in full, without any negligence and in good faith. And now in this case, the bank is protected from any type of liability. Okay. Section 10 define payment in due course. It means payment in accordance with the apparent tenor in good faith without any negligence to the person of the possession. Now, payment in due course, first of all, means that Section 10 says that payment in due course involve, first of all, the payment to the person can be directly or the payment to a person who is associated with that firm. Means, for example, if the payment is made to the ABC company and now A is an employee of that company, if the payment is made to A, then it is also said in payment in due course, in good faith without any negligence, as well as with the parent tenor. Parent tenor means whatever has been written in that check, the bank has followed all the instruction clearly without making any changes. And now the bank has been protected in this case. If all these steps are followed by the bank, the payment is in a parent tenor, in good faith, in the to a person or a person associated with that person. Now, if the fraud occur, bank is not responsible for any type of loss in this case. Third, Section 31 obliges the drawee bank must have a sufficient balance of the drawer in its hand to be made or to make payment of the check. So Section 31 says that whenever the drawer is making the check, the drawee has to make sure that the drawee has a sufficient fund of that drawer to make the payment of that check. Now, if the drawer has not the sufficient balance in their account, now in this case, the paying bank is not responsible for any type of loss. So it is the responsibility of the drawer to have the sufficient balance in his or her account, and the drawee, responsibility of the drawee is to make ensure or to ensure that there is a sufficient balance in the account for making the payment. Okay, so section 89, section 10 and section 31. Okay, now payment made by the bank under mistake, whether recoverable or not. Now in this case, a check of rupees 5,000 drawn by a company was presented by the collecting bank to the paying bank. Okay, and was paid. Signature and writing of the check was fraud, and forgery was done in so perfect manner that it cannot even possible to detect it from a trained eye. Okay, now the paying bank has subsequently come to know the forgery and filed the suit against the collecting bank and the paying of the check on the ground of the mistake. Means here the paying bank, the check has been collected by the collecting bank and now it is presented to a paying bank and the paying bank has made the payment. After the paying bank has made the payment, it came to be noticed that the check, the writing as well as the signature has been forged in the check. Now the paying bank has filed a suit against the collecting bank as well as the payee of the check. Means who received the payment, that you have to return the payment to me. Why? Because the payment was done in a mistake. Now what is the rule in this case? See, now in this case, if we talk about the decision, the collecting bank says that I have collected this check in a good faith and within the business hours or ordinary course of the business. Means whenever the collecting bank says that I am not liable for any type of loss. Why? Because I have collected the check. Okay, I have checked the check, but the signature and writing was so perfect that the trained eyes cannot detect the forgery. I have collected the check in the ordinary course of business hours, and so I am not responsible for any type of loss. Now the payee says that he received a check from a person who claims to be a representative of that company, and the pay says that I only disparted from the goods. Means I have delivered the good to the company or the firm once I have received the confirmation from the collecting bank that the check has given, that the check has been forwarded for the clearance or of the payment. Now, I have submitted that check to the collecting bank and I was waiting for the confirmation. And the collecting bank confirms that, okay, the check has been forwarded for the clearance. And when I received that confirmation, I disparted the good or dispatched the good and I have made the supply of the good. Now I have made the supply of the good. The check has been given by to me by the representative of the company, as well as the collecting bank has make me sure that the check has been forwarded for the clearance. Now in this case, I am not responsible for paying back this money because I have delivered the good. in good faith. Second, I have received the confirmation from the collecting bank. Third, I have received this check from the representative of the company. Now it is not my responsibility that the check is forged. I am entitled to receive the payment, and that's why I'm not returning the payment. Now in this case, the paying bank cannot demand payment either from the payee or from the collecting bank. Now the decision was, the High Court dismissed the appeal, and from both the point of view said that the paying bank cannot recover the money either from the collecting bank or the paying bank. Why? Because the collecting as well as the pay, they both work in a good manner and good faith without any negligence. And the pay also has the bank, the paying bank also made payment. Why? Because check was so perfect that the forgery was not a deductible even from the trained eyes, and that's why now the paying bank has to absorb this loss, and the pay as well as the collecting bank is not responsible for returning back any sort of money to the paying bank. So this was the case. Okay, so this is the complete chapter, and I hope that you have all enjoyed this chapter. Okay, I have explained this chapter with examples and with everything. Okay, now kindly keep giving feedbacks and rating to the session. Thank you so much for joining this session. Then meet you in the next session. Thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye bye, guys. Bye, everyone. Take care.